fans, and welcome to the fifth episode of the Short Round, the official podcast of the Canadian Professional Rodeo Association. I'm your host, Wacey Anderson, and I'm pleased to be joined by my celebrity co-host, Tim Ellis of the Ram Rodeo Report. Tim, welcome back to the show. How's 2024 treating you so far?
So far, so good. I think we almost made it through this cold snap up here, so maybe no more feels like minus 58s for a while. Let's hope. Fingers
It's
crossed.
it seems to like make these dog days of rodeo, I'm calling them, drag out a little bit longer when it's minus 40, minus 30, cold outside, you're breaking ice off the waters, all that fun stuff. It seems just to make it drag out just a little bit longer as we're waiting for things to fire up, eh?
Yeah, well, I mean, you knew winter was coming at some point. It's just like maybe let's kind of ease into this. No, we'll go no snow through Christmas. Everything's fine, nice and warm, and then here's a minus 58 for you, just to keep you honest.
It's tough to say there's not anything going on right now in the rodeo world. The winter run is in full swing down south, and a cool event that just wrapped up actually over the weekend was the rodeo in San Diego, and the venue itself, and it was put on by C5 Rodeo, which is right from home here, which is kind of cool to see them put on that type of event in a legendary ballpark.
Yeah, definitely. And what I really liked about the C5 involvement is the amount of Canadian content they brought down there. I mean, from pickup men to you saw Gary Rimple down there, and
Mm.
Perry Gursky, one of the judges, and Brett Gardner doing the announcing. And so that's what I really liked is not only did they put on this event in a great venue. Petco Park is, I mean, that's on one
It's
of my
quite the
bucket
venue.
lists to go watch a baseball game.
Yeah.
But you bring down some Canadian content with you as well, and show off the stock that you have there. And I thought it was very well done. And by the look of the crowd and in the clips that you saw, that they were having fun. So I think it was a great job that C5 Rodeo did down there.
I think it's a good way to kick off the year. Kind of, I talked to Brett Gardner before Christmas, and he kind of mentioned how like he expects 2024 to be like the year that rodeo is like fully back, and we kind of see it take that next step. And I think this was a step in that right direction of just like a completely new venue for rodeo, kind of a place where there's a bit of controversy around it with the whole lawsuit deal happening in California. So it was cool to see it like all come together and have success around it.
Yeah, definitely, that's for sure. And yeah, if you want to, get it back and get some interest, then let's dive right into California, into San Diego, and see how it goes. And by all accounts, it went very well. So, but uh, I think Brett might be right on there. This might be the year that maybe we get fully back, if ever get fully back. But stock contractors have had a few years now to
Mm.
hopefully recoup some of that money they lost, and you get the fans really back, and you've had a couple of years to cultivate that. So it's going to be an interesting year for sure.
Well, and one horse, I guess, or four-legged athlete who seemed to enjoy that California weather was Virgil. I want to talk about him for a second. He seems to be relevant like always. Like no matter he gets another year older, he seems to get better. So it was cool to see them kind of cap off the weekend, get the win on him, 93 points. What has made Virgil such a living legend?
Well, first of all, he's got his own T-shirt line. What other horse do you know has got his own T-shirt? I mean, right there, it tells you how cool Virgil is.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
No, he's he just keeps going on. I mean, it's I will never forget 2018 Canadian Finals Rodeo with Jake Vold drawing him in round two, and he was 90 and a quarter. I think Dwayne Danes and I thought he should have been 98, but they only threw 90 and a quarter at him. But that was one of from the perch that I was at. That was one of the best trips I thought Virgil ever had, and that's well, heck, that's five
Long
years
time
ago
ago now,
already now.
yeah.
And he's still winning Calgary Stampede championships for guys, and winning Horse of the Year, and performing so well at the NFR. And he's just, I mean, he's so big and so strong, but yet at the same time, he can throw those 90 points at you. And I mean, the
Mm-hmm.
only other bareback horse that I ever saw was Graded Coconut that could do that. But Graded Coconut, I mean, he hurt you. Like he was that strong,
Oh
but
yeah.
every every time your head went back, I remember talking to Travis Whiteside about that, and Dusty LaValle and all those guys that drew him back then. It was like when you were done, you hurt so bad. And Virgil's so strong. I think it's the arm that hurts, but
Mm.
Graded Coconut would hurt your body as well. But if you can ride him, as we've seen, I mean, you're going to win rodeos 93, and it doesn't show real signs of slowing down. But I know Vern McDonald has got a big decision coming up here in the in the next year or two what he's going to do. But I mean, if he's still throwing up 90s and 93s, it's
What?
like, how the heck
How do you
can
let him
you ever
stop?
take him off the trail?
Yeah, well, it
Exactly.
could be one of those
But
things of like
there
the
will be a point.
yeah, you could incorporate the maybe the NBA load management for Virgil in 2024 and
Yeah.
just kick buck with the big ones. But yeah, he continues to impress like with the I think he split horse the NFR this year, and you talk about he still you can still get the 90s on him, but he can still make you pay for it. Like we watched Oren Larson at the CFR. Oren Larson's top
Yeah.
15 bareback rider in the world, but he's always just seems to struggle getting on Virgil. It's impressive. If you stub your toe, he's going to make you pay for it, even at a upper age.
Oh, definitely. And that ride that you're talking about there in Red Deer, you could see the longer that ride went on, the looser Oren was getting, the more beat up he was getting, and you're just saying like, and I'm sure Oren is saying the same thing. Let me get to the whistle and see what I can get. But yeah, that when you do that to one of the best bareback riders in the
Mm-hmm.
world, I mean, it just shows you the power that he has for sure.
So along with San Diego, we got Fort Worth Stock Show and Rodeos happening right now. I think they're just wrapping up their Extreme Bulls tonight, and we got the Denver, the National Western Stock Show and Rodeo, I guess you want to call it. We did have kind of an unfortunate event happen. I think it was 2 days ago now, where Canadian Officer Broderson got himself in a bad wreck during the performance. Just maybe we can touch on that and send him our best wishes. It was a scary wreck, but it's good to hear that he's in hospital recovering and kind of back on the mend.
Yeah, the last I saw, Denver just sent out an update here, I think a little while ago, unless it was old or whatever, but I think he's listed in serious condition, which, given everything that happened, maybe that's kind of the best right now. But it seems like I've read somewhere where they're expecting a full recovery in that. So, again, like, as you say, our thoughts go out to him. I mean, it was just a couple of months ago at the CFR, Chase Siemens, who won the novice bareback, was talking about competing with Austin, and they were heading down to college, and we're really looking forward to continuing their college careers down there and riding against each other and pushing each other. And
Mm-hmm.
it's just, it's rodeo. Things happen in the blink of an eye. We all know that your life can change in an instant in one ride, and it has for Austin, but hopefully everything will continue in an upward trend and give him a few months and maybe a year or whatever it takes to get him back on the rodeo trail if that's what he chooses. But yeah, very unfortunate, but hopefully that things continue to trend upward.
Yeah, like you say, wish him all the best, and he's kind of part of that. Like you mentioned, that young up and coming group of bucking horse riders we have. But you go back to CFR with I felt the novice bareback and saddle knock was kind of the strongest it had been in the past few years. So it's exciting to see. But yeah, hopefully we can get Austin back on the trails as soon as possible, and he's feeling good. But so talking about these winter rodeos, Tim, I want to kind of talk about the emphasis of having a big winter run, especially if you're trying to get to the NFR. We've seen guys like Zeke and Ben and all these guys who've had success in the PRC over the past few years. They've done well at these big winter rodeos. So how important is that to say a guy like a Beau Cooper, or maybe these guys shooting for their first or second NFRs?
Yeah, I think it's important for sure. I mean, and obviously, Rodeo Houston is the biggest of those,
Mm-hmm.
and that's the most important. I mean, if you win that and you win the $50,000, you're almost booking your ticket to Las Vegas. So that's the huge one out of there. But I mean, if you hit a San Antonio, a Fort Worth, something like that, and collect, $25,000 or something, it sets you well on your way. I was just actually looking at, Lucas Matza this year. I think he's got 16,001 already, and has
Mm-hmm.
done it kind of at the smaller venues. He hasn't even hit the big winter rodeos yet. So you get to start like that without these big winter rodeos, and then you hit a couple of checks, you're in pretty good shape. And I think he won like 8,000 the whole winter scene last year. So
Mm-hmm.
it can really help you. On the flip side, guys like Zeke Thurston or other guys like that, if you don't have a really good winter nowadays, you can make it up in the summer.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas in the past, it took you winning a Houston, or it took you needed that big money. You got to had $15,000,
Yeah.
$20,000 one before April. Now you don't necessarily have to do that, especially in the bull riding and the bronc riding where you have these extreme events and extra like that, you can make that up on the trail. And even now with the big money rodeos they have in August and some in September, that
Hmm.
you can make it. But I think just from a confidence point of view as well, I mean,
Yeah.
if you're heading into the spring with $20,000 in your bank account, it's like, oh man, this now I can go. So I think it is largely important, and you want to win something out of there. If you can get to
Hmm.
that $15,000-$20,000 mark, it definitely really helps. On the flip side, you don't have to win that much to get to the NFR, but anything helps, of course. But the other thing is, you can win $10,000-$15,000 in the winter, 20,000, and say, geez, this
Hmm.
is good. I can roll. And then boom, here comes June and July
The
when
summer
when they're
slump.
throwing out, yeah, they're throwing out 20,000, and the Pinoca Stampede's throwing out $60,000 in
Yeah,
added money. And it's like, wait a minute, that $15,000 is gone. So
there goes.
it's
Yeah.
there's two different ways to look at it for sure, but any money is important at this point.
When you mentioned the Pacoca Stampede and upping their prize money to $60,000 this year, let's get into 2024. It's shaping up to be a huge season in Canada. Talk a bit about who you see as maybe some emerging contenders, or maybe we got some past champions you think are going to make some noise in 2024.
Yeah, I think there's quite a few. Just to touch back on that Pinoca Stampede, one of the things that I'm going to be looking at, I think might be interesting in these spring rodeos up here in Canada, is to see how many more or how the American cowboys treat this. Because
Mm,
for so many years we get to this, they come to the Pinoca Stampede and they do well, and it's like, oh geez, now I got to get my 15 count. I
yeah.
don't think I can do it, right? And now that they you know, 60,000 added. Well, somebody could win $25,000 at the Pinoca Stampede
Hmm.
easily this year, right? And it's like, so do they change their thinking and go, look, if I get my 5, 6, 7 rodeos in before Pinoca, and then I happen to win it, now it's easy peasy. I can get to the
Yeah.
Canadian Finals rodeo. So I think that's interesting, just to continue on that path. But yeah, some of the guy I actually just talked to Strand Dunham here the other day. I did that for a column, and just a delightful young kid. First of all, just a very very nice young man. But I mean, he was so close to making CFR. Guys like that, I think. I think are really going to put an emphasis this year, and I think
Hmm.
young ropers like that. And you mentioned the Bo Cooper, you got the Strand Dunham. Uh, some of the ropers, I think I'm very interested to
Hmm.
watch this year. Of course, the bronc riding just continues to churn out these guys, so it's interesting to watch to see who's going to get a jump. I think a Logan Hay this year, I think, is one guy that I think is going to be right near the top of the standings, and I really look for him to come back
Hmm.
with the vengeance up there. And then at the other end of the scale, I look to a guy like Curtis Cassidy, who had his season cut short in August at Strathmore Stampede and didn't make the Canadian Finals rodeo for the first time. And what is he now? I keep saying that, and he keeps saying I'm not that old, but he's what 44, 45 now. I think Curtis,
Bulldogger
man,
years,
you
he's
can keep
old.
going. But I really look for him to come back and say, I'm going to win some more money at these spring rodeos this time and try to get back. And so there's a whole host of these young barrel racers that showed up at the
Hmm.
Canadian Finals rodeo. Blake Molly, Carly Cowie, interested to see that. I think I think it's going to be a fun year in the CPRA trail.
It's nice to see the new youth movement coming. I think we kind of were like we had in the saddle bronc riding in a few of the events, but I think across the board we're getting that next wave of top contestants. Like you see it, you got the Beau Gardners and the Grady Youngs coming to bull riding. You got guys like Strand Dunham in the tie down rope, and even like a Denham Ross in the team rope.
Yeah.
And like there's some really high quality young contestants coming through, and I think that's going to make the competition even like that much better. I felt like last year CFR was probably some of the best competition we've had in recent years, so I'm looking for the 50th in Edmonton to be an electric factory, for lack of a better word.
Yeah, for sure. And you mentioned Bull Gardner. That was one that I didn't mention, but I watched him at the Lakeland Rodeo Association finals the year before, doing the live broadcast up there, and he was competing in the junior bulls and the open bulls, and I think they bucked him off maybe twice out of both
Wow.
events. And I'm thinking, okay, this kid is going somewhere. So again,
Hmm.
I talked to him. I think it was last summer or something, and now he comes out and wins in a weigh-in, and that guy is he's got a heck of
He's
a
the real
career
deal.
ahead of him.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah, he's
so
the real deal.
yeah, he's going to be definitely one to watch for sure on the trail.
Yeah, and Bo is our guest on the show this week, so we have a fun
Hmm.
conversation with that him coming up later on. But yeah, he great head on his shoulders, like really like
Yeah.
thoughtful when you talk to him. Like he's a great kid. So look, yeah, like you said, looking for big things out of Bo.
Yeah.
So what's the season look like for you, Tim? You know, you're busy on the road with around Rodeo Report and stuff coming up. Where can people find you in 2024 on the rodeo trail?
Well, yeah, they can watch for that Ram Rodeo truck, courtesy of the Alberta Ram dealers, and a big thank you to them and all of the sponsors for getting me up and down the trail. I think last year was probably one of my busiest years. I think it was from almost mid May till pretty much mid-August. It was somewhere every weekend, and I really enjoyed that. And just like we're talking about, this might be the best rodeo season coming out of those COVID years. That was kind of my my best season on the trail, I think. But and I still love going out there. So they can watch for that wherever they get, and of course just watch for the reports on all our social media channels, Ram Rodeo Report, and hoping that I'm not the how do I put this so I don't denigrate myself too much? I'm not the best at technology, I guess you could say, as I creep up in years, but trying to make those rodeo reports on social media more interactive and friendlier to find and all that. So I'm trying to working through that. So hopefully that gets to where it is. But you can always find them everywhere, and then across the radio stations, 840 CFCW, kind of our anchor station, but all over the Real Country Network across the province. I think we're up to 19-20 stations across
Wow,
Alberta. So you can find it anywhere if you look hard enough for sure.
Tim's
So
an easy guy to
and
find.
yeah, exactly. And as far as we know, we'll be back hopefully for Canadian Finals Rodeo broadcast in November up at Rogers Place too and
Awesome.
everything. So hopefully it's the same old, but some new improvements as we continue to go on. So and it'll be in some form or the other, it'll be year number 37 consecutively for
Wow.
these rodeo reports on radio, and for myself, and then of course 840 CFCW, back in the 1950s with Jimmy Brown and George Myron and Andy Lee and those guys. This thing has been going forever, and we're working our damnedest to keep it going. So hopefully we'll get at least another couple of years.
Awesome. Well, we'll definitely be bringing you back on here as the season progresses, and we talking CFR news and everything happening around throughout the season. So we appreciate you taking the time again today, Tim. And yeah, we'll catch you down the road.
Yeah, appreciate it. Anytime, just give me a holler, and we'll come back on. And really looking forward to 2024. I think it's going to be a big year.
It's gonna be great. Well, and this is episode number 5 of the Short Round Podcast. We'll be back with our interview with Beau Garnder after this. Welcome back to the Short Round. This week, I am excited to welcome Bull Rider Beau Garnder to the show. Beau, thanks for joining me, buddy. Excited to have you.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Wacey.
So you recently picked up your first Pro Rodeo Canada win in the bull riding at the New Year's Eve bull riding event in Oyen. So let's start with that. Like, talk a bit about the night, how it felt to compete alongside some guys you've looked up to over the years, and get a win at rodeo's highest level.
Yeah, it was my first pro rodeo, so going into it, I was a little bit nervous, but also had a little bit of confidence rolling in. I'd had some success the year before. Yeah, then there's guys that I've looked up to my whole life, like Jared and Jordan. So being able to ride with those guys was kind of a dream come true. And then yeah, I knew my long round bull. I'd been on him the year before. He bucked me off, so it was kind of a redemption thing going in there. So I was pretty pumped about him. And then going into the short go, I didn't really know any of the bulls. I knew maybe two of them, and so I kind of asked Coy Schmidt. I said, well, if I don't get my first pick, what should I take? And he told me to pick that little bull. So no, it worked out awesome, and yeah, it's kind of just a dream come true to kick it off like that.
Well, and like you're no stranger to rodeo and like bull riding events, and but it must have felt a bit different this time walking in, knowing you're competing against, like you mentioned, the Jareds and the Jordans. Like, how did you feel? Like, did you feel like it was welcoming? Were you a bit nervous? What was going through your mind as when you first stepped through the doors there?
Yeah, I was a little bit nervous walking in. Because those guys that they'd been to the CFR, they'd been to the NFR, so it's a bump up of a caliber of what I've been used to riding with. But I've known them guys since I was itty bitty, so everybody was pretty welcoming, and they're actually bugging me at the beginning. They're bugging me saying that there was a junior bull ride that I should have been in. So
Oh, that's
so yeah,
great.
no, it's good when they're making little jokes like that with you. You kind of I feel like you're accepted in their circle.
Yeah, it's a nice way to kind of get like it makes you feel comfortable right away, eh? Like just like having that familiarity with the guys there's like the group below them like the Coy Schmidts and those guys and Ashton Solly's who have done so well over the past few years and they kind of are starting to establish themselves at that level. So it's kind of neat to kind of have two different groups of guys, eh, at that to that and have grown up around.
Like yeah, like there's the veterans that all of us young guys have been looking up to our whole lives, and then yeah, there's Coy Schmidt and Ashton Sully and kind of like that young gun crew. And I'd rodeoed with Coy a whole bunch in the steer riding, and I grew up with Carter, so I was always kind of around Ashton. So yeah, kind of knew I knew everybody going in there, and but yeah, it still gets you a little nervous.
And I want to talk bit more about that short go ride. You were 89 points, which is a huge like it's probably going to end up being one of the bigger rides we see throughout the whole season, like in 2024. So how like one you just said you didn't really know the bull, but was there a point in the ride like you knew you had him snapped, or did you kind of just fit your style? Like what helped in making it such a great ride and you pick up the win?
Yeah, I love bulls are handed right into my hand. So kind of as soon as he come into my hand, I was like, oh, you're dead now. So
Yeah.
yeah, no, I love them when they go right. So yeah.
So you picked up 24 or $7,400 towards the Canadian standings. So it's going to be huge as we move into this year. Talk a bit about that and kind of gives you a head start, you could say, on the field. So yeah, talk a bit about how that's going to help you out as you move through this season.
Yeah, it's big because getting to the finals, it's nickels and dimes sometimes on guys can miss out.
Mm-hmm.
So picking up a good check like that right at the beginning of the year really kicks it off, and hopefully you can just keep that momentum rolling throughout the season.
Well, it's kind of like a not like unwritten or like a common knowledge with pro rodeo that if you kind of, especially in the bull riding, if you hit that $20,000 mark, you're pretty safe for the CFR. We're picking up that amount of money, like you're over a third of the way there, like almost half. So that's a huge way to kick off the season. It's not even through January yet.
Yeah, no, there's
Is that the kind of stuff you think about, or are you kind of just taking it one bull at a time and then just letting the chips fall where they may?
yeah, I'm not much of a smart numbers guy, so I just take it one bowl at a time, and yeah, just see where the chips fall, I guess.
Kind of what I talked a bit off screen is I want to go back to the beginning for you. You like we've talked, you kind of touched on it where you've been around rodeo for a long time. You've been kind of hanging around the pro level and different levels through it all. But I talked to Keenan Vine before we jumped on here, and he mentioned the small spurs program started by Ty and Haley Elliott, and even your involvement in the 4-H. So talk a bit about that stuff, how it's helped you kind of grow into where you're at now.
Yeah, the Elliots they put on a little small spurs. It was kind of just a little rough stock steer riding deal for all of us young kids, and it just rolled throughout the winter or whatever. And they brought great stock for us to get on. So I kind of got my starts going to those small spurs deals, and then a bunch of steer riding schools put on by different guys, and then yeah, doing those 4-H rodeos. It's kind of funny. The first year that I went to one, I was actually too young to go into it, but somehow I got snuck in there and
Or it's your birth
ended up
certificate.
doing all right there.
Outside of like the thing with 4-H too is all the different stuff you have to do on like I know in the beef side you have to keep a record book, you got to do your speeches, all kind of thing like that stuff. Every little thing you do in that process like helps you as a person and also in your rodeo career.
Yeah, like you said, you do the public speaking and you're keeping your books, so it kind of prepares you for life,
Mm-hmm.
I guess, in a sense. You have to take responsibility for an animal, and you got to keep up with all your books. And then yeah, everybody dreads February when you got to write that 4-H speech, but in the long run, it helps.
Well, and was rodeo like always a thing for you? Like growing up, I know, like I know who you are, but I don't really know much of your past. So, like, did you grow up always wanted to be a bull rider, steer rider, that type of thing, or was it something you kind of just stumbled upon?
Actually, so I grew up on a little ranch outside of Arrowwood,
Okay.
and mom and dad they raised bucking bulls, so I was
Mhm.
kind of always around. They always joke about saying I grew up in the back seat of a truck. So yeah, I was always going to rodeos ever since I can remember and packing bulls, and then uh, stumbled across a couple pictures of dad riding bulls, and So I kind of always just wanted to give it a try. And
Hmm.
uh, local entered the hometown rodeo. I think I was like 8, and got on a steer there and was just hooked. Fell in
So
love with it
did you
there.
spend a lot of time around the Ashbackers growing up too?
Yeah, I spent a lot of time around them. They live, shoot, 10 minutes down the road.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
we're going over to their place and getting on practice stock. And then, yeah, amateur rodeo and throughout my whole career was mostly their stuff and going to some pro rodeos and it was their stock. So traveled with Cole a little bit too.
How helpful was that having a guy like Dwayne and even Cole, like with how much care and time they put into like curating their pen of like junior steers or cows, whatever you want to call
Oh, yeah, they care about the kids so much. They're all
them.
about the kids. So, yeah, they put a lot of time and effort into it when others might just kind of look past it.
Just
I know
another
I sure
event.
wouldn't be very good at that job.
Hmm. Well, and even like I remember when you were young, like you're kind of an undersized fellow. Like, did you know like how when did you start kind of hitting your growth spurt and kind of coming into your own that way?
I didn't start growing until I was like almost 16. Kind of right when I started getting on junior
Right out of
bowl.
the steer attic, eh?
Yeah, I think we're looking back on old pictures and my first CFR in the steer, I'd now standing
Mhm.
beside Jet Lambert, and I think I was maybe 5 foot, 80
And
pounds.
Jets like he's a big guy.
Yeah, he's like 6 foot, 180, so just towered over me, was a man child.
So it seems like the path that you've taken through your career is like pretty specific. Like you competed at the amateur ranks in the steer riding. You went high school rodeo. You pro rodeo in the steer riding, and you kind of dominated the amateur ranks in the bull riding side of things now. And now you're into the pros. So was that always by design? Like, did you always have that plan of like I'm gonna kind of make my way through each level, or was it just the way things kind of worked out for you?
That was a lot of my dad. He always kind of had this plan. So when I was riding steers, going amateur rodeo, I had to make the finals before I could buy my pro card. And so I made an amateur finals, and then the next year I brought my pro card, and he said, "Well, we're not gonna hit the pro rodeos too hard this year. We'll just kind of test the waters."
Mm-hmm.
And I was getting a couple row, but not as much as I needed, like I should have. So we just kept on amateur rodeo, and then the year after that, he said, "You're ready," and kind of turned me loose and let me go rodeoing in the pro level with the steer riding, and then with the bull riding. I started in 2020. It was supposed to be my last year of steer riding, but obviously that kind of got cut short due to COVID. So I think it was April when we about realized that we weren't going to rodeo much.
Mm-hmm.
So we went over to Nansen Bolt's place, and he had this little red bull that was kind of just the perfect bull to start out on. And I got on him probably 5 times that weekend. And first 2 times he augured me, and then finally got him rode. But yeah, dad's all about steps, making sure that you're not in over your head. And
Mm-hmm.
at least when you are bumping up to that next level, you have some confidence going in, and you always have something to look back on and say you had a little bit of success there. So just stick to the plan and do that.
Well, I think that's often like overlooked because you see a lot of young guys who have lots of talent and they seem to almost skip steps or like rush the process, and then they end up battling injuries or just like not having that instant success or success right away that they may have had they've taken the right step. Like how pivotal has that been in where you're at now?
Yeah, I think had I done it the way that I
That you
originally thought I was going to do it, I'd probably
the way you
be pretty
wanted to do
crippled
it.
and not riding as good as I feel like I am. But yeah, there's a lot of guys that'll skip those steps, and you hear about them having a bunch of success right off the go, and then their
Mm-hmm.
bodies just can't take it.
Well, and I think that's part of it. It's like they get that instant success. It's like, oh, I don't need to. I can just keep going doing this, and you see it eventually catches up to you, especially because. And I think too, there's a time when guys didn't like prepare as well as they do now, and I'm sure like that's different for you in this day and age. Like I find more of the bull riders and rough stock guys and even rodeo athletes in general are more of athletes. Like they take the time to prepare outside the arena. So what do you do outside of the arena to make sure that you're prepared to compete at the highest level?
Well, to be honest, before I wasn't a huge gym person. I wasn't really going to the gym. I was just kind of getting on practice bowls and riding the stationary barrel. But then last semester, I tore my groin real bad and was kind of battling that and getting
Mm-hmm.
in my head. So I started going to the gym a little bit and doing some light workouts and focusing a lot on the mental side of things. Our coach here in Snyder, Greg, he's big on the mental side of things. So he's been coaching me through that a lot. And but yeah, just started going to the gym and getting on practice bowls and stationary barrel and reading books, I guess, is what I've been doing.
Have you noticed a difference in your game since you've like dedicated some time to the gym?
Oh yeah, I'm got a little more flexibility and I'm trusting my body a lot more than I was before.
So you're down in Snyder, Texas at college. Is this your first semester down there?
Yeah, I just finished my first semester. We're just starting our second semester here on Thursday. I had to go get all my
Your
classes figured
classes
out
sorted
this
out. So what
morning.
are you taking in school?
I'm doing farm and ranch management, doing the associate's degree.
And then so how did the fall semester rodeo go for you? Did you get some bulls the road? How are you finding the competition down there in Texas?
Yes, like I said, I was hurt most of the semester, so I
Right,
think I
yeah.
only got on at two college rodeos.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, this is the most competitive region in college rodeo. There's guys like Court McFadden that are on tour, and we got some really handy bull riders here, like Cooper Jacobs and Scott Wells. They kind of dominated last year,
Mm-hmm.
and Scotty's having a good season this year. So it's a really competitive region, and I feel like it pushes you a lot to be the best you can be and just leave it all out there.
So how are you going to balance like being in the college rodeo part of things and then also trying to make your first steps in pro rodeo? Is it going to be kind of a juggling act? Are you going to be all over the place all at once or
Yeah, yeah, that's kind of why like I come down here 2 weeks early to kind of hit some rodeos out east in Mississippi and Louisiana, and yeah, just trying to get a little bit of a head start on them before the college rodeos pick up, and then yeah, it'll be spend one night at the college rodeo and then go to another rodeo and then hopefully come back for the short go. So it'll be a bit of bouncing around.
so heading into this year then what's it look like? Are you focused a lot of your time on the PRCA? Are you going to spend some time up at home here in Canada when you get back? Like what's that going to look like?
I'm going to spend a lot of time back at home. I think this year my
Mm-hmm.
goal is to win Rookie of the Year in the CPRA and make the CFR.
Well, it's pretty cool, like how much money there's to be won up here now. Like you look at even Jared and Jordan, like how much of the money that they won to make the NFR was won in Canada. It's really kind of viable now to like make a decent amount of money to the world standings up here in Canada.
Yeah, and then I just seen that Panoka bumped their prize money up
Yeah, yeah,
to I guess like 60,000 now. So
yeah.
yeah, that would be stupid not to come rodeoing in Canada and get to go to some pretty cool rodeos. And yeah, there's a lot more money than there was for sure back in the day. So take advantage of it.
So I want to jump back to 2023 quickly. So you end up being the 2023 Canadian Novice Bull Riding Champion. Talk a bit about that and how like those there was only a few rodeos that had it, but talk a bit about being able to compete at those rodeos again, kind of at the next step above the steer riding.
Yeah, that's kind of been a work in progress. It's been something I've talked about for a long time, having junior
Mm-hmm.
bull riding at some of the pro rodeos. And then Benalto had it this year, and I think there's a couple others. But yeah, it's kind of cool because you're almost at that level to compete with those guys, but not quite there.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
you're hanging around them and kind of picking up a few tricks of the trade from them, and you're getting to go to all them rodeos that you went to as a steer rider, and that are always so cool to go to.
And that. It's funny that you mentioned that because it's like it's always been like that for a long time. And I know there's like the BRCs of the world and these other associations, but there really isn't a place for, like you said, that in between step for the steer riding to the bull riding. I know you can compete at the amateur in the bull riding, but still is hard to hit that level of being at a pro rodeo, eh?
Yeah, like when you're amateur rodeo and then the junior bull riding, there's some guys that have some old campaigners kicking around, but a lot of the time we were getting on 2 and 3 year olds, and sometimes you'd see a 3 year old. You get on him in the junior bull ride, and then it's oh shoot, that thing's at the PBR next week. He had a good trip.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's you're kind of them pro rodeos. They had just the perfect set of little bulls there for the junior bull ride.
Well, and into last year too. So you picked up over $50,000 competing at the Bull Riders Canada, which is kind of the grassroots feeder system to pro bull riding, we could say now in Canada. But what was it like winning that kind of money over a summer? Like that's crazy, man. Like you won just as much money as some guys competing at the pro level. So that's a pretty cool accomplishment.
Yeah, going into the season, like I didn't really have a set goal to be honest. I just figured that oh well I'll be going to school in August, so I'm just going to try and make as much money as I
Mm-hmm.
can. Go to some amateur rodeos, go to some BRCs when it works out, and then yeah, started picking up some good checks at them BRCs and kind of just started rolling with it. And then I told my dad that I wanted to set the season earnings record, and he said, kind of laughed it off a little bit. And I said, no, I want to get this done by the time I go to school in August. So I started going to them real hard and had
Mhm,
some success at them. So yeah, it was that there's a crazy amount of money added for compared to what there used to be. Like a guy can actually make a living riding bulls now. And
for sure.
yeah, the Russell and Jen Friend did a lot for us last year. They added money at a lot of rodeos.
Mhm.
There's a lot more to go to than there was before. So yeah, they did a big one there.
One thing, a neat part of it too is you get to get on a lot of the bulls that you see in the long rounds at these bull riding events or even in pro rodeos. So which is so you're kind of getting a taste of that up higher level, but you're not without having to commit to a full season on the pros.
Yeah, they're definitely not running in duck spinners every weekend for you. I know when we'd go out east over to them Crossfire bull ridings, yeah, Clear Skies would have bulls and Bobby Stevens and you're getting on some buckers like
Bobby's got the
in the
juice,
short.
eh?
Oh yeah, I kind of rolled in over there and everybody's like, "Oh, these Saskatchewan bulls are so much fun." And I was like, "Yeah, shoot." So we went over there for a weekend and we'd been getting on 4 and 5 year olds kind of all summer over here and then go over there and you're getting on a 7, 8 year old and
Yeah.
in the short round, it's a PBR short round bull, so you're tying your hand and you had to mean it.
Well, it's a good way to test your metal and kind of prepare you for what's to come in 2024, right? Like you're gonna end up running into, like you said, these short go bulls, these 7, 8 year old bulls that have been down the road that are pretty seasoned. So I think it's having that kind of foundation heading into the season is going to play a huge part in your success for this year.
Yeah, a lot of the bulls that we were getting on this year, it kind of seems like they just go through waves. Like last year, the bulls that they were bucking at the BRCs, you're starting to see them at the PBRs and the pro rodeos. So I think a lot of the bulls that we're getting on this year we'll probably end up seeing at the pro rodeos in
Mm-hmm.
2024. And then yeah, you get on one that really bucks and you get them snapping. It kind of just okay, I belong here, and it kind of makes you feel like you are ready for that next step and gives you a boost.
That like that confidence you talked about heading into even into Oyen, like it kind of just it's got to be like thriving at that point.
Yeah, confidence is a huge thing, and my dad always tells me you can't get too high, you can't get too low. You just gotta take it for what it is. But sometimes it's hard not to get a little too high, and um, so yeah, confidence. I really feel off of confidence.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So aside from your dad, who are some of the guys who've helped you kind of get to this point? Some of the influences, maybe some role models.
Yeah, there's a lot of guys. I've been really lucky with a lot of guys helping me out and putting up with me. Like I said, like Jared and Jordan, they've helped me a lot these past couple of years because I've been talking about going pro rodeo and they said they'd help me out. And then Chad Bestbug, um, Tyler Thompson, Zane Lambert. Kind
Mm-hmm.
of, I started going to a bunch of Zane Lambert's bull riding schools, and I feel like that's kind of where I started getting the feel for things. So yeah, there's a lot of guys that have helped me out. Tanner Gerlitz.
It's a neat thing about growing up in central Alberta. There's the access you have to these guys. You know, like I grew up in Saskatchewan, so when we first started coming out to Alberta, it was like eye opening. Just like you would see like Tanner and Tyler Pankowitz and Chad and all these guys, these bull riding, where it's like growing up where we're growing up, like you have like unlimited access to be hanging out with these guys.
Yeah, like I'm 2 hours from Pano, or I guess a little bit further, but pretty close to Panoka. So there's always practice bulls over there to get on,
Mm-hmm.
and everybody is a phone call away, and they'll be right there to help you out. So I've been really lucky with the group of guys that have been willing to help me, and yeah, I'm really grateful for
Well,
that.
even you talk about some of the stock contractors. You mentioned Nansen a few times here, and like obviously your dad grew up with bulls and the Ashbackers. Like those guys can often get overlooked too in the success of a competitor because they get so much attention on the stock side of things.
hmm Yeah, there's Nansen. Um, he'd helped me out a lot. Like I've been getting on his calves all winter, and I feel like that helped out a lot. And he was never putting me on something that was going to try and hurt me. He'd put me on something that would test me for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Same
Mm-hmm.
with Dwayne, but nothing that was ever going to hurt me or way over my head. So that was a big part of it too, is getting on the right stuff.
Well, and you're kind of part of a group of up and coming bull riders. Like we talked about the BRC and there's guys like Grady Young, and I think the whole like the majority of the guys who made the finals was mostly rookies. Like how cool is that to see a big crop of like talented guys come making their way to the pros?
Yeah, it was pretty cool. The top 10 guys in the BRC for most of summer, 7 of us were rookies. So hopefully our sport's in good hands. I feel like there's a group of us that are young and hungry and then wanting it. So I think that they're uh the rookies will have some success, and when we come in, we hopefully come in with a bang.
So you mentioned kind of touching on the you want to win the rookie of the year, make the CFR. Do you have any other goals for 2024, or what's the season look like? Who are you going to travel with? That kind of stuff.
Yeah, I haven't really put a whole bunch of thought in traveling with some guys. I've kind of put some bug in the guys' ears, but yeah, big thing is traveling with guys that you can feed off of, guys
Mhm.
that I feel like ride as good as me, or if not better. So then you got something to chase down, you got someone to thrive off of. And then for other goals, I'd like to make the college finals here this year.
Those are in June in or Cody, Wyoming, right?
Yeah, they're in June in Casper, Wyoming. Yeah.
Casper, right? Okay, cool. That's sweet. This the 50th CFR is coming up, and what would it mean to you to qualify for the CFR this year and for the first time in the bull riding?
It'd be a dream come true. I remember being tiny, and when the CFR was in Northlands, my dad would always look at me and he said, "You want to be here?" I was, "Yes, sir." And he's like, "Well, get here." And every single year we'd have that conversation, like, "Get here, do whatever it takes. If you want to be the best, do whatever it takes and get here." And so now that they're going back to Edmonton, it's kind of cool. It's where I always dreamed of being, and then we're going back there. So
And it's got
it'll
to
be
be
really
cool
cool.
to kind of have that like become a reality, right? That become an option, right? Like it's easy to sit there and say like, oh, I want to be here, I want to be there, but you've done a good job of putting in the work and making that become a reality. So it's got to be exciting at the fact of just pulling your truck in Edmonton in October.
Yeah, no, that'd be really cool. I like to think that you can't have $1 million dream with a minimum wage work ethic, and so yeah, just do whatever it takes to get there, and definitely check another box off, get to the CFR, and then the year after that, hopefully, roll in and pick up the Canadian title, hopefully.
So before I let you go here, Bo, I want to know what are some of the rodeos or some of the ones that maybe you want to add to your win list as you head to CFR 50 in Edmonton.
There's a couple. I've always liked Falkland. That's kind of where my
Awesome
steer
rodeo.
riding in the pro rodeo kind of clicked for me was Falkland. So getting the win in Falkland would be pretty cool. Panelka, it's got lots of money at it. It's a real cool rodeo. Strathmore, it's another big rodeo.
Mhm.
Um,
That can
and
almost
then,
be the hometowner for you too at that level. Hey,
yeah, it's shoot 25 minutes from my house. So yeah, it's basically a hometown rodeo. And then obviously Calgary. Every little kid dreams of riding in Calgary, and to win that, that would be just a dream come true.
well, Bo, really appreciate you taking the time to chat with me today, and we wish you all the best in this upcoming season. Make sure you study hard, have fun down in Texas, and we'll catch you down the road this summer.
Yeah, thanks a ton, Wacey.
All right, buddy. Talk to you later.